The air in the slave markets of Raxus Prime smelled like rust and despair. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy stood in cages, their eyes empty, their bodies broken. Some cried. Some screamed. Most just waited in silence for whatever came next. Hannah knelt in her cage with her head down. The metal collar around her neck hummed with a low, cruel energy that made her skull ache. Neural shackles, they called them. They blocked her gifts, the empathic abilities that made her people special. Worse, they hurt. Every breath sent small jolts through her body. Every movement reminded her that she was property. She had been a slave for 3 cycles now. 3 long years of pain and humiliation. She barely remembered her home anymore, the beautiful forests of Velhara with their glowing trees and singing rivers. The Colvare had invaded when she was young, burning everything, taking everyone they could sell. Her family was gone. Her friends were gone. Everything was gone except the pain. Her current owner was Threx, a massive Colvarai with gray-scaled skin and yellow eyes that held no mercy. He treated her worse than cargo. To him, she was just something to sell, to beat, to break. The scars on her back proved how little she meant to him. The dim glow of her bioluminescent markings, once bright and beautiful, had faded to almost nothing. She was dying inside, piece by piece. "Move, slave!" Threx's voice boomed across the market. Hannah flinched. She scrambled to her feet as he unlocked her cage. He grabbed her arm and dragged her into the open square where buyers gathered. "Stand straight. Look presentable." Hannah tried to obey, but her legs shook. She was so tired, so hungry, so broken. A potential buyer, an insectoid creature with too many limbs, examined her closely. "This one looks damaged. Why should I pay full price?" "She's Velhari," Threx said. "Empathic abilities when the shackles come off. Useful for reading business partners, detecting lies. She's worth every credit." The buyer clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. "Perhaps. But she looks half dead." Threx's face darkened. He backhanded Hannah across the face. She fell to the ground, tasting blood. "She just needs discipline. See? Still responsive." Pain exploded through Hannah's skull as the neural shackles punished her for falling. She curled into a ball, trying not to scream. Around them, the market continued. No one cared. Slaves were beaten here every day, except someone did care. "Hey! Stop that!" The voice was new, speaking in heavily accented Galactic Common. A human voice. Hannah looked up through blurred vision. A man stood a few meters away, his dark hair slightly messy, his clothes practical and worn. Humans were rare in the outer sectors, still newcomers to the galactic stage. Most species didn't know what to make of them yet. Threx turned slowly, his expression shifting from anger to amusement. "What did you say, human?" "I said stop hitting her," the man repeated. He stepped closer, his hands open but not submissive. His name was Jiho, though Hannah didn't know that yet. She only knew that someone, for the first time in 3 years, had spoken up for her. Threx laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "This is my property, human. I'll treat it however I want. Move along before you become property too." Jiho's jaw tightened. Hannah could see something in his eyes, a kind of burning anger that she hadn't seen before. Not the explosive rage of someone like Threx, but something deeper, colder, more dangerous. "I want to buy her," Jiho said. "She's not for sale to you," Threx replied. "I don't sell to bleeding hearts who'll ruin good merchandise with kindness." "Then I challenge you," Jiho said. Several nearby merchants stopped what they were doing. "A purchase duel. Local custom, right? We compete, winner gets the merchandise. No hard feelings." Threx's eyes narrowed. Purchase duels were legal but dangerous. They settled disputes over property through competition rather than violence, though the competitions themselves could be violent. You know what you're asking for, human? I know exactly what I'm asking for. Threx smiled, showing too many teeth. Fine. Endurance trial. First one to collapse loses. I accept your challenge. The duel was set for an hour later. Hana was dragged back to her cage, her mind spinning. Why would this human risk himself for her? It made no sense. Humans were supposed to be weak, soft, new to the harshness of space. Everyone said so. The endurance trial took place in a heat chamber, a room that grew hotter and hotter until one competitor gave up. Hana watched from behind a transparent barrier with dozens of other spectators. Threx stripped to the waist, his scales gleaming. Jiho kept his clothes on, though he removed his jacket. The heat began. Within minutes, both men were sweating. Within 10 minutes, other species would have collapsed. Kalvari were desert creatures, built for heat. Humans were unknown quantities. 15 minutes passed. Threx looked confident. Jiho looked calm. 20 minutes. Threx's confidence flickered. Jiho remained standing, his breathing controlled. 30 minutes. Threx was struggling now, his scales losing their shine. Jiho swayed, but didn't fall. At 45 minutes, Threx collapsed. Jiho stood for another 10 seconds, then sat down carefully. The human had won. The crowd erupted in shock and scattered applause. Hana couldn't believe what she'd seen. Threx, unconscious, was dragged from the chamber. Jiho emerged, drenched in sweat but victorious. A market official handed him a datapad. She's yours, human. Legally purchased through trial by ordeal. Jiho looked at the pad, then at Hana. His eyes weren't cruel. They weren't even hungry with ownership. They looked sad and tired. Come on, he said gently. Let's get out of here. Hana stood on shaking legs. She didn't know what came next. A new master, certainly. New rules, new punishments, new pain. But as Jiho led her through the market toward his ship, she noticed something strange. He didn't drag her. He didn't yell. He walked beside her, matching her pace. The ship was called the Wandering Star, a battered human freighter that looked like it had seen every corner of space. Jiho led her aboard and to the cargo bay. You'll stay here tonight. I'll bring you food and water. Tomorrow, we'll talk. He left her there, alone in the dim cargo bay. Hana sank to the floor, still wearing her neural shackles, still in pain, still terrified. But for the first time in 3 years, something flickered inside her chest. Not hope, exactly. Hope was too dangerous, too painful when it died. But maybe, just maybe, curiosity. Why had this human saved her? What did he want? And why did his eyes look so sad when he looked at her chains? The questions haunted her as exhaustion finally dragged her into uneasy sleep. Hana woke to the sound of footsteps. She tensed immediately, old instincts screaming at her to be smaller, quieter, less noticeable. That was how you survived. That was how you avoided the worst of the beatings. The cargo bay door opened. Jiho entered carrying a tray. Hana pressed herself against the wall, watching him with wide eyes. He stopped several meters away, not approaching further. "Good morning," he said softly. "I brought breakfast. Nothing fancy, just protein rations and fruit. There's water, too." He set the tray on the floor and backed away. Hana stared at it, then at him. This was a test, surely. He wanted to see if she'd take it without permission. Then he'd punish her for being greedy. "It's for you," Jiho said, as if reading her thoughts. "You can eat it. I already had breakfast." He sat down against the opposite wall, giving her space. Hana didn't move for a long minute. Finally, hunger won. She crawled forward and grabbed the tray, dragging it back to her corner. The food was real. Fresh fruit, something she hadn't tasted in years. She ate quickly, messily, waiting for him to snatch it away. He didn't. He just watched her with those sad eyes. "My name is Geo," he said. "I'm a cargo hauler, independent trader. I run supplies between stations in the outer sectors. It's not exciting work, but it's honest." Hannah said nothing. She had learned long ago that slaves who spoke without permission got hurt. "You don't have to talk," Geo continued. "I just wanted you to know who I am. And I want you to know something else. I'm going to remove those shackles." Hannah's head snapped up. That was impossible. Neural shackles were designed to kill the wearer if tampered with. Every slave knew this. It was how masters kept them obedient, even after death. "I know it's dangerous," Geo said, "but I've worked with electronics and neural interfaces for years. I've studied the design of these particular shackles. I think I can do it safely, but only if you want me to try. It's your choice. Your choice." Hannah didn't understand those words anymore. Slaves didn't have choices. Over the next 3 days, Geo visited the cargo bay regularly. He brought food, water, and blankets. He talked sometimes, telling her about the stars they passed, the stations they'd visit, the strange things he'd seen in his travels. He never demanded anything. He never touched her without asking first. He never hurt her. On the 4th day, Hannah finally spoke. Her voice came out as a rasp, rusty from disuse. "Why?" Geo looked up from his datapad. "Why what? Why did you buy me?" The words felt strange in her mouth. "What do you want?" Geo set down the pad. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I want you to be free. That's all. Nobody helps slaves for free. My people have a history with slavery," Geo said slowly. "A very bad history. We hurt each other for thousands of years because of it. Eventually, we learned. We decided that no person should ever own another person. It's wrong. It's evil. And when we see it happening, we have to stop it. Your people are strange. Maybe," Geo smiled slightly, "but we're also stubborn." On the 5th day, Geo brought his tools. Hannah sat very still as he examined the neural shackles, his scanner beeping softly. "The good news is that these are a standard Kalvari design. I've seen the schematics before. The bad news is that they're wired directly into your nervous system. Removing them will hurt, and if I make a mistake, it could kill you. Then why try?" "Because you deserve to live without pain," Geo said simply. "But it's your decision. I won't do anything you don't agree to." Hannah thought about it. She thought about 3 years of agony, of the constant humming in her skull, of her gifts locked away behind walls of pain. She thought about living the rest of her life like this. "Do it," she whispered. The process took hours. Geo worked with intense concentration, his hands steady despite the risk. He talked her through each step, explaining what he was doing, giving her the option to stop at any moment. The pain was terrible. Several times, Hannah nearly passed out, but Geo's voice kept her anchored, calm and steady. "Almost there. You're doing great. Just a little more." Finally, with a soft click, the shackles opened. Geo carefully removed them from her neck and set them aside. For the first time in 3 years, Hannah felt nothing. No, not nothing. She felt everything. The absence of pain was so overwhelming that she collapsed. Geo caught her, his emotions flooding into her newly freed empathic senses. She felt his relief, his concern, his deep burning anger at what had been done to her. She felt his determination to help her, his iron-hard conviction that she deserved better. She also felt something else, guilt. Geo felt guilty that he hadn't saved more, that he couldn't save everyone. that the galaxy was full of suffering he couldn't stop. "You're safe now," Ji-Ho said, helping her sit. "The shackles are gone. You're safe." Hannah started crying. She hadn't cried in years. Tears meant weakness, and weakness meant worse punishment. But now they came in great, gasping sobs. Ji-Ho didn't tell her to stop. He didn't leave. He just sat with her, patient and kind, while she mourned everything she'd lost. When the tears finally stopped, Hannah felt exhausted, but also strangely lighter. Ji-Ho handed her water. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you decide," Ji-Ho said. "I can take you to any safe port you want. I'll give you credits to start over. Or you can stay on the ship for a while until you figure things out. Either way, you're not my slave. You're not anyone's slave. You're free." Free. The word felt foreign, like something from another language. Hannah didn't know what freedom looked like anymore. She didn't know where to go, or what to do. Her homeworld was gone. Her people were scattered. She had nothing and no one. "Can I stay here?" she asked quietly. "Just for a while?" "As long as you want," Ji-Ho said. "You're welcome aboard the Wandering Star." That night, Hannah slept in a real bed for the first time in 3 years. Ji-Ho had given her one of the small crew cabins, complete with a lock on the door that only she controlled. She lay awake for hours, listening to the hum of the ship's engines, feeling the gentle vibration of faster-than-light travel. Her empathic senses, freed from the shackles, spread through the ship. She could feel Ji-Ho in the cockpit, tired but content. There was no malice in him, no hidden cruelty waiting to emerge. He truly meant what he said. She was free. Hannah didn't know what to do with freedom yet. But for the first time in 3 years, she wanted to find out. 6 weeks passed aboard the Wandering Star. Hannah slowly learned what it meant to be a person again, instead of property. Ji-Ho was patient, never pushing her, always giving her space and choices. She could eat when she wanted, sleep when she needed, lock her door and be alone. The ship became her sanctuary. It was small but clean, with just enough room for cargo, basic living quarters, and a tiny medical bay. Ji-Ho ran his trading business efficiently, moving goods between stations, never staying in one place too long. Hannah started helping with small tasks, organizing cargo, checking manifest lists. It gave her something to focus on besides her memories. Her body healed faster than her mind. The scars on her back faded somewhat. Her bioluminescent markings, the beautiful glowing patterns that covered her skin, grew brighter each day. Her empathic abilities returned fully, allowing her to sense emotions around her. Sometimes this was overwhelming, especially in crowded stations where thousands of feelings crashed against her mind. But Ji-Ho taught her breathing exercises, ways to filter and control the flow. They didn't talk much about the past. Ji-Ho never asked her what happened during her 3 years of slavery, and Hannah was grateful. Some wounds were too deep for words, but slowly she asked him questions. About Earth, about humanity, about why they hated slavery so much. "We enslaved each other for thousands of years," Ji-Ho explained one evening as they ate dinner together. "Different groups, different reasons, always the same evil. It destroyed families, cultures, entire peoples. We built economies on suffering. When we finally stopped, when we finally admitted it was wrong, we swore never again. Not to ourselves, not to anyone." "But you're just one species," Hannah said. "The galaxy is so big. How can you stop it everywhere?" "We can't," Ji-Ho admitted. "But we can stop it where we find it. Every person freed is a victory. Every slaver stopped is progress." Hannah thought about that often. Every person freed is a victory. She was a victory. The thought felt strange, but not unwelcome. Their next stop was Haven's Gate, a massive space station in neutral territory. It was a refuge for those running from war, persecution, or slavery. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species lived there in an uneasy peace. The station's law was simple. Violence was forbidden, and everyone deserved a second chance. Jiho docked the wandering star at one of the outer pylons. "I need to meet a friend here," he told Hana. "You can come if you want, or stay on the ship. Your choice." Hana chose to come. After weeks in space, she wanted to see people again, to test herself in crowds without shackles. Haven's Gate was overwhelming. The main concourse stretched for kilometers, lined with shops, clinics, housing units, and gathering spaces. Hana's empathic senses were flooded with emotions: hope, fear, exhaustion, relief, joy, despair, all mixing together in a chaotic symphony. Chi-Ho led her to a small medical clinic near the station center. The sign above the door read "Free Care" in a dozen languages. Inside, a human man was treating a young alien child's broken arm. "Doyan," Jiho called. The man looked up and grinned. "Jiho, about time you showed up." He finished bandaging the child and sent her off with her grateful parent before approaching. "And who's this?" "This is Hana," Jiho said. "Hana, this is Doyan, best medic in the outer sectors and an old friend." Doyan studied Hana with kind, intelligent eyes. "Velhari, right? I've read about your people. Your markings are beautiful." Hana touched her arm self-consciously, where the luminescent patterns glowed softly. "Thank you." "She was enslaved," Jiho said quietly. 3 years. I got her out 6 weeks ago." Doyan's expression shifted to understanding and sympathy. "Then you've come to the right place. Haven's Gate has one of the best support networks for freed slaves in this sector. Counseling, job training, community groups. Whatever you need, we'll find it." Over the next few hours, Doyan showed them around the station. He introduced Hana to other freed slaves, people who had survived and rebuilt their lives. She met a former cargo slave who now ran a successful restaurant, a former pleasure slave who became a teacher, a former mine worker who wrote poetry. They all had the same look in their eyes. Scars that would never fully heal, but also strength, resilience, and hope. That evening, Hana sat with Jiho and Doyan in a small cafe overlooking the station's central garden, a huge green space filled with plants from 100 worlds. "Your people are strange," Hana said, echoing her words from weeks ago. "Humans, I mean. You fight so hard for others." Doyan laughed. "We're not special. We're just stubborn and have good memories. We remember what slavery did to us, so we can't ignore it when we see it happening to others. There's an entire network of humans doing this work," Jiho added. "Ships, stations, volunteers. Some are official, working with the Terran Coalition's anti-trafficking units. Others, like me, are independent. We share information, help when we can." "I want to help," Hana said suddenly. The words surprised her, but they felt right. "I want to do what you do. Free others." Jiho and Doyan exchanged glances. "It's dangerous," Jiho warned. "Slavers don't forgive interference. You'd be putting yourself at risk." "I've been at risk my whole life," Hana said. "At least this way, it would mean something." Before they could discuss further, alarms blared through the station. Red warning lights flashed. Doyan's communicator buzzed urgently. "What's happening?" Jiho asked. Doyan listened to his device, his face growing grim. "Armed ships just entered the sector. Kalvari vessels. They're demanding the station hand over escaped property." He looked at Hana. "They're looking for you." Hana's blood went cold. "Thrax. Who?" Doyan asked. "My former owner," Hana said. "He won't let this go." "He can't. I made him look weak." Jiho stood immediately. We need to move, now. They ran through the station's corridors, heading for the docking pylons. Around them, security forces mobilized. Haven's Gate was neutral territory, but it was also poorly armed. If Threx brought enough firepower, the station might surrender her to avoid bloodshed. They reached the Wandering Star and began emergency departure procedures. But before they could undock, Threx's voice boomed through the station's communication system. Attention Haven's Gate. I am Threx of the Kalvari Syndicate. You harbor stolen property. Surrender the Valhuri female called Hannah, and I will leave peacefully. Refuse, and I will take her by force and destroy anyone who stands in my way. Hannah's hands shook. Jiho put a hand on her shoulder. We're not giving you up. That's not happening. But the station ... double quotes Hannah started. The station can make its own choice, Doyan said, arriving at the ship with a medical kit. And I'm betting they choose to tell Threx to shove off. The station commander's voice came through moments later. This is Haven's Gate Command. We do not recognize the legal ownership of sentient beings. Your claim is denied. Depart immediately or face consequences. Threx laughed, a sound like grinding metal. So be it. I'll take her myself. Mercenary ships began approaching the station. Hannah closed her eyes, her empathic senses reaching out. She felt Threx's rage, his humiliation, his determination to break her again. But she also felt something else. The emotions of thousands of beings on Haven's Gate. Freed slaves, refugees, outcasts. They were afraid, but they were also angry. They were tired of running. I have to face him, Hannah said. Absolutely not, Jiho replied. If I don't, people will die because of me, again. Hannah opened her eyes, and they glowed with inner light. But this time, I'm not running. This time, I'm not helpless. She walked to the airlock before Jiho could stop her. Taking a deep breath, she opened a communication channel to Threx's ship. This is Hannah. I'm here. I'm the one you want. But I'm not your property anymore. I'm not anyone's property. And if you want to try to take me, come and do it yourself. Face me in front of everyone. There was a long silence. Then Threx's voice came back, dripping with venom. You dare challenge me, slave? I challenge you, Hannah said. One-on-one. Public combat. Winner walks away. Or are you afraid of one unarmed female? Another pause. Threx couldn't refuse no. Not publicly. His pride wouldn't allow it. Fine, I accept. Central concourse, 1 hour. I'll enjoy breaking you again. The channel closed. Jiho grabbed Hannah's arm. What are you doing? You can't fight him. I have to, Hannah said. But I won't be alone. I'll have my people, my abilities, and the truth on my side. That has to be enough. The central concourse of Haven's Gate filled with thousands of spectators. Word spread quickly that a freed slave was challenging her former master to single combat. Every refugee, every freed captive, every person who'd suffered under the weight of chains came to watch. This wasn't just a fight. This was a symbol. Hannah stood in the center of a hastily cleared circle. Her legs shook slightly, but she kept her back straight. Her luminescent markings glowed bright blue, brighter than they'd been in years. Around her neck was nothing. No collar, no shackles, no ownership. Across from her, Threx stood like a mountain of gray scales and muscle. He wore light armor and carried an energy baton. You've made a terrible mistake, slave. I'm going to enjoy teaching you your place. My place is free, Hannah replied. Her voice carried through the silent crowd. And my name is Hannah, not slave. Remember it. The station commander, acting as referee, stepped forward. Rules are simple. Fight until one surrenders or cannot continue. Lethal force is forbidden. Begin. Threx charged immediately. He was fast for his size, covering the distance in seconds. His baton swung down toward Hana's head. She rolled aside, barely avoiding the blow. The crowd gasped. Too slow. Threx laughed. He swung again. This time the baton caught Hana's shoulder. Pain exploded through her arm. She fell, scrambling away. This was a mistake. She wasn't a fighter. She was just a survivor who'd gotten lucky. Threx would kill her. No, not kill. Something worse. He'd drag her back into chains. Back into pain. Back into being property. The thought filled her with rage. Hana pushed herself up. Her empathic abilities, fully restored, spread outward. She felt Threx's emotions. His confidence. His cruelty. His absolute certainty that he owned her, would always own her. She pushed back against those feelings with her own. She projected 3 years of pain, of degradation, of every moment she'd been beaten, starved, and broken. She forced him to feel what she'd felt. Threx stumbled. His face twisted in confusion. What? What are you doing? I'm showing you the truth, Hana said. She stood fully now, her markings blazing. Every slave you've owned, every person you've hurt, they all felt this. Feel it, know it, carry it like they had to carry it. She hit him with everything. Not physically, but emotionally. The accumulated suffering of countless victims poured through her and into him. Threx dropped his baton. He clutched his head, groaning. The crowd watched in stunned silence. This wasn't physical combat. This was something deeper, more profound. You're not the powerful one, Hana continued, walking toward him. You're pathetic. You're weak. You need chains and weapons because without them, you're nothing. You're afraid. Afraid that people like me, people you hurt, will stand up, will fight back, will show everyone that you're just a coward. Threx fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his face as years of inflicted trauma crashed over him. He tried to speak, but couldn't form words. Hana stood over him. I could break you right now. I could make you feel every second of pain you caused. But I won't, because I'm better than you. We're all better than you. She turned to the crowd. Freedom isn't just about breaking chains. It's about standing up and saying no more. It's about refusing to let them win. Every person here, every survivor, you're proof that they don't win. We win by surviving, by healing, by helping others do the same. The crowd erupted. Cheers, tears, shouts of agreement. Threx collapsed completely, broken not by violence, but by truth. Station security moved in, surrounding Threx. The commander approached Hana. I declare you the victor. Your former owner will be detained and transported to the Terran Coalition for prosecution. Hana nodded weakly. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her exhausted. Jiho pushed through the crowd and caught her as she swayed. You did it, he said softly. You really did it. We did it, Hana corrected. None of this would have happened without you. Over the following days, Haven's Gate buzzed with energy. Hana's story spread through the station and beyond. A Velhari slave had faced her former master and won through strength of spirit rather than violence. It gave hope to thousands. But Hana knew the fight wasn't over. Threx was just one slaver. The Kolvari Syndicate had hundreds more. Millions of slaves still suffered across the galaxy. She met with Jiho and Doyun in the clinic a week after the fight. I meant what I said. I want to join the network. I want to fight the Syndicate. Doyun nodded slowly. It won't be easy. The Syndicate has resources, political connections, and no mercy. I know, Hana said. But I also know I can't just save myself and pretend everything's fine. There are others like me, still in chains. They need help. Then you'll need training, Jiho said. Combat, piloting, survival skills. The Syndicate won't go easy on you now that you're known. I'm a fast learner. They were. Over the next several months, Hannah trained intensely. Diane taught her field medicine. Jiho taught her ship operations and basic combat. Other volunteers in the network taught her hacking, intelligence gathering, and covert operations. Her empathic abilities gave her unique advantages. She could read emotions, predict reactions, sense danger before it arrived. She became skilled at infiltration, able to talk her way past guards by understanding and manipulating their emotional states. The Wandering Star became a mobile operations base. They ran small missions at first, disrupting slave auctions, freeing transport ships, gathering intelligence on Syndicate operations. Each success saved lives and struck at the Syndicate's profits. Hana's reputation grew. Freed slaves spoke of the glowing Velhari, who fought for their freedom. The Syndicate put a price on her head. Threx, imprisoned and awaiting trial, swore revenge. During one mission to intercept a slave transport near the Helios cluster, they encountered someone unexpected. A human woman in Coalition military uniform waited at their rendezvous point. "You're Hana?" The woman asked. "I am. I'm Minji, Terran Coalition Anti-Trafficking Task Force. I've been tracking your activities." She smiled slightly. "Impressive work, but also reckless. You're making enemies." "Good," Hana said. "They should fear us." Minji's smile widened. "I like you. The Coalition has been building a case against the Culveray Syndicate for years, but we need concrete evidence and witnesses willing to testify. Your insider knowledge could be invaluable. What do you need?" "Everything you know about their operations. Locations, procedures, personnel. And eventually, we'll need witnesses at trial. People brave enough to stand in front of the galaxy and tell their stories." Hana didn't hesitate. "I'll do it. Whatever you need." They worked together over the following weeks, building a comprehensive case. Hana provided details about dozens of Syndicate operations. Other freed slaves came forward, adding their testimonies. The evidence mounted, but the Syndicate noticed. They realized that Hana wasn't just a nuisance anymore. She was a genuine threat, and they decided to eliminate her. The trap was sprung on a remote mining colony called Dust Rock. Hana, Jiho, and a small team were investigating reports of enslaved miners. They arrived to find the colony seemingly abandoned. "Something's wrong," Hana said, her empathic senses screaming warnings. "We should leave." But it was too late. Syndicate ships emerged from behind the colony's asteroids, cutting off escape. Armed mercenaries poured from hidden positions. They were surrounded. "We've been waiting for you," a voice announced. It wasn't Threx, but someone higher in the Syndicate hierarchy. "You've cost us millions of credits and considerable embarrassment. Time to pay the price." The fight was brutal. Jiho's team was outnumbered 3-1. They held their ground as long as they could, but slowly they were pushed back toward the colony's central HAB-dome.G. Ho took a blast to the chest protecting Hana from a sniper. He went down hard, blood spreading across his shirt. Hana screamed, dragging him behind cover. "Go," Jiho gasped. "Save yourself." "No." Hana's markings blazed with desperate light. "I'm not leaving you. Not ever." She triggered an emergency beacon, calling for Coalition support. But help was hours away. They'd never last that long. Drawing on reserves she didn't know she had, Hana stood. Her empathic abilities exploded outward, affecting every mind within range. She projected fear, confusion, doubt. Mercenaries hesitated, their aim faltering. Some fled entirely, overwhelmed by terror They couldn't explain. It bought them minutes. Long enough for Doyun to arrive in a commandeered shuttle. Long enough to extract the team. Long enough to save Jiho's life. But as they escaped, Hana looked back at Dustrock. The syndicate was escalating. They'd keep coming until she was dead or captured. The war was far from over. Jiho survived, but his injuries were severe. He spent 2 weeks in a coalition medical facility, hovering between life and death. Hana never left his side. She held his hand, whispered encouragement, and blamed herself for everything. Doyun found her there one evening, slumped in a chair beside Jiho's bed. "You need to rest." "I can't," Hana said. "This is my fault. He got hurt because of me." "He got hurt because he chose to protect someone he cares about," Doyun corrected. "That was his decision, not yours. Don't dishonor it by taking responsibility for his choices." "But no buts. Jiho knew the risks. We all do. This work is dangerous, but it's also necessary. You can't save everyone, and you can't protect everyone from harm. All you can do is keep fighting and honor the sacrifices people make." Hana absorbed those words slowly. They hurt, but they were true. She couldn't control everything. She could only control herself and her choices. When Jiho finally woke, his first words were, "Did everyone make it out?" "Yes," Hana said, tears streaming down her face. "Thanks to you." "Good," he smiled weakly. "Then it was worth it." During his recovery, Hana made a decision. The small missions weren't enough anymore. The syndicate was too big, too entrenched. They needed to strike at its heart. She met with Minji and Coalition Command. "We have enough evidence now. It's time to move on the syndicate's headquarters." "The Black Auction," Minji said grimly. The Black Auction was a fortress station deep in syndicate territory. It was where the worst of the slave trade happened, where the highest value merchandise was sold to the cruelest buyers. It's heavily defended. We'd need a major operation, multiple ships, hundreds of personnel. "Then gather them," Hana said. "Use me as bait if you have to. Tell the syndicate I'll be there. They'll come for me, and when they do, you strike." The coalition agreed. Plans were made. Ships were assembled. Volunteers from a dozen species signed up, including many freed slaves who wanted revenge. Hana trained constantly, preparing herself for the biggest fight of her life. 2 months after Dust Rock, the operation launched. Coalition ships, supported by independent vessels like the Wandering Star, converged on the Black Auction. The station's defenses were formidable, but the attackers had surprise and righteous anger on their side. Hana was part of the first wave, leading a team to infiltrate the station's security center. Her empathic abilities were crucial, allowing her to sense guard positions and navigate the chaotic maze of corridors. They reached the control center after intense fighting. Inside, surrounded by displays showing hundreds of caged slaves, stood a high-ranking syndicate official. And beside him, somehow escaped from prison, was Threx. "Hello, slave," Threx growled. "I told you I'd find you again." Hana didn't flinch. "You keep using that word, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. I'm not what you made me. I'm what I chose to become." The fight was desperate. Threx and his guards against Hana's team. But this time, Hana wasn't alone and helpless. She had training, allies, and most importantly, purpose. She faced Threx directly, their final confrontation. He was still bigger, still stronger. But Hana had something he'd never have. She had grown beyond her trauma while he remained trapped by his cruelty. Using her empathic abilities, she showed him everything. Every slave he'd broken, every life he'd destroyed, every moment of suffering he'd caused. The weight of his sins crushed down on him, and this time there was no mercy in her projection. She wanted him to understand fully what he was. Threx collapsed, his mind unable to handle the truth of his own evil. Coalition forces secured him and the other syndicate officials. The black auction fell. Thousands of slaves were freed. The Kalvari syndicate's leadership was captured. It wasn't total victory. Other criminal organizations would rise. The fight against slavery would continue. But it was a massive blow to the trade in this sector dot in the aftermath. Hana stood in the station's main concourse, watching freed slaves emerge from their cages. Some cried. Some laughed. Many just stood in stunned silence, unable to believe their nightmare was over. Jiho, recovered enough to participate in the mission, found her there. You did it. You really did it. We did it, Hana corrected again. All of us. Minji approached with news. The coalition wants to expand anti-trafficking operations. We're looking for experienced personnel to lead new teams. You interested? Hana looked at Jiho. He smiled and nodded. It's your choice. Always your choice. She thought about the scared, broken girl she'd been in that cage on Vraxis Prime. She thought about the long, painful journey to healing. She thought about all the others still suffering across the galaxy. I'm interested, she said, but I have one condition. The Wandering Star and its crew stay together. We work as a unit. Deal. Over the following weeks, the syndicate trials began. Hana testified, standing before the galactic community and telling her story. It was painful, reliving those memories, but also cathartic. Every word was a nail in the syndicate's coffin. Other survivors testified too. Hundreds of voices speaking truth to power. The syndicate officials were convicted and sentenced to long prison terms. Threx received the harshest sentence of all Dot. As he was led away, he looked at Hana one final time. You haven't won. Slavery will never end. There will always be people like me. Maybe, Hana replied. But there will also always be people like us. People who fight back. People who refuse to give up. And will outnumber you eventually. That's a promise. Months later, Hana stood on the observation deck of the Wandering Star, looking out at the stars. Her luminescent markings glowed bright blue, beautiful, and unashamed. Jiho joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. Where to next? He asked. There are reports of slave operations near the Antares Rim, Hana said. Minji wants us to investigate. Sounds dangerous. Probably. Hana smiled. It was a real smile, full and genuine, something she'd rarely done before. But we've handled dangerous before. That we have. Jiho handed her the tea. You know, when I first saw you on Vraxis Prime, I wondered if I could really help. If one person could make a difference. And now? Now I know one person can't change everything. But one person can start something. And you started something amazing, Hana. You've inspired thousands. Freed slaves across the sector are standing up, fighting back, because they saw you do it first. Hana considered this. She thought about her people, the scattered Velhari. She'd been searching for other survivors, trying to reconnect with her heritage. She'd found a few, enough to begin rebuilding. But that was a long-term dream. Right now, there was work to do. Slaves to free. Monsters to stop. Lives to save. Thank you, she said to Jiho, for everything. For seeing me as a person when everyone else saw property. For giving me the chance to become who I am now. You did that yourself, Jiho replied. I just removed the chains. You did all the hard work of healing and growing and fighting. The ship's computer chimed, signaling their jump to hyperspace was ready. Hana finished her tea and set the cup aside. Ready? Jiho asked. Always. They walked to the cockpit together. The Wandering Star leaped into hyperspace, carrying them toward new challenges, new battles, new people to save. Hana's journey from slave to freedom fighter was complete, but her story was far from over. She was no longer defined by her chains. She was defined by her choices, her strength, her compassion, and her unbreakable determination to help others find the freedom she'd fought so hard to claim. The galaxy was vast and full of injustice, but it was also full of hope, courage, and people willing to fight for what was right. As long as those people existed, as long as humans like Jiho carried their stubborn conviction that everyone deserved dignity, and as long as survivors like Hannah refused to give up, there was hope for a better future. The wandering star disappeared into the void between stars, a small ship on a big mission. But sometimes the smallest lights shine brightest in the darkest places.